So as you all know, the right is always redlining with their anger and their outrage and their vitriol. And, we're used to them melting down on a daily basis and just screaming and throwing tantrums on a daily basis. But every now and then, we have somebody on the left decides to fucking fire back in a way that's just glorious and incredible and amazing. And we have a great example of that here. So Mehdi Hasan, Matt Walsh came after him aggressively recently, as many people on the right have, because whenever people on the right in the year of our Lord 2025 see somebody that's not white, they immediately, go to insults and smears and bigoted attacks. So for Mehdi, it's, you're a jihadist. I'm not kidding. They say, like, Mehdi's a fucking jihadist. If you scroll down in this exact fucking tweet here, you'll see that very quickly. Within the first, 10 tweets, it's like, radical Islamic jihadist. Well, Mehdi decided, you know what? Enough. All these people, Mehdi had said in a speech recently during the No Kings protest that, yes, I am more American than many people born in America, because I actually chose to come here because I believed in the Constitution. I believed in the values that were espoused there. And you have many right-wingers who don't know the fucking first thing about the Constitution. So yes, I am more American. Cry about it. And then fucking Matt Walsh took issue with that, and Mehdi fired back. This is amazing. Let's watch.
To talk about Matt Walsh. And if you're asking Matt who, then I'm truly envious of you. Normally, I wouldn't waste time responding to basically an internet troll, but Matt is so emblematic of everything that is wrong with the modern MAGA right. Faux outrage, self-victimization, verbal abuse, a walking, talking Dunning-Kruger. Now, Matt Walsh, who says he's a conservative Christian, is upset with me for being a Muslim and for being an immigrant. But above all else, for being an American. That he cannot stand. So he did an entire 13-minute video calling me a spiteful, lying, self-entitled brat, on top of his tweet, in which he called me an ungrateful little bitch. Just as Jesus would have said. Now, before we get into the substance of Matt's claims, if we can even call it that, before we get into what I said about Muslims and the founding of America, a little bit of background on who Matt Walsh is. Shock jock podcaster, former radio DJ, and now basically that Daily Wire guy who isn't Ben Shapiro. He's also the guy who hasn't got the greatest of political judgment. He went all in on Ron DeSantis in the GOP primary and then had to come crawling back to Trump when DeSantis got destroyed, as some of us predicted he would. Matt is also the guy who said...
I got to hold an L on that one too, though, Mehdi. I really thought DeSantis had a chance. I was dead wrong. That was probably my worst prediction, is that DeSantis... I really thought DeSantis was like the favorite for a while. Bad on my part.
COVID wasn't a big deal, that, quote, it's totally irrational to panic over this virus. He later admitted he got it wrong. But here's my favorite. Matt was so bothered by a black woman playing Ariel in the Little Mermaid movie that he actually said this.
From a scientific perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have someone with darker skin who lives deep in the ocean.
There are no words to describe how dumb you have to be to try and make scientific arguments about the skin color of mermaids, which are fictional fucking characters now. This is the guy who millions on the right turn to for intellectual guidance, historical analysis, and thought leadership. Then you wonder why this country is so screwed right now. By the way, just quickly, consistency isn't really his thing either. In May of this year, he said identifying as a girl dad is super cringe and corny. In 2020, though, he said, being a girl dad is a great blessing.
Oh my God. Oh, this is incredible.
He constantly complains about political violence and death threats when they're aimed at him, but he's happy to dish it out to the people he doesn't like. He's called for the mayor of Chicago, a black man, to be executed. Oh. He's called for Jimmy Kimmel, a comedian, to be arrested. He once said this, too.
But it is, in fact, true that you have to make people hurt. And I'm sorry, but holding signs and yelling loudly will not make anyone hurt.
You have to make people hurt.
To this point, Mehdi, a poll just came out. I don't know how many of you guys saw it, but they asked right-wingers and left-wingers, is it ever okay to do political violence? And the right, by a pretty significant margin, said, yes, they're more comfortable with political violence than the left. It was like, I think 38% or something like that of people on the right said political violence is sometimes acceptable, and only like 25% of people on the left said it, which just destroys this whole narrative that MAGA is trying to push right now, that we have an Antifa left-wing terrorism problem in this country. They say that. Meanwhile, we had like 3 MAGA terror attacks recently within the past month or two. So it's classic that here's Matt Walsh saying, I love political violence, but all day he'll cry and whine and bitch and moan about fake left-wing political violence.
Now, what's really bothering him about me is that I said in a recent visit to Dearborn,
I think that if you can play church bells, you can pray the call to prayer.
Isn't it okay for Muslim Americans to broadcast a call to prayer? I mean, let me add right now, within reason, of course, and in accordance with all local sound and noise ordinances. But Matt went nuts and said Christianity built this country. Islam did not at all in even the slightest way. That's why we can have our church bells. To which I responded, 1 in 3 of the slaves who built this country were Muslims. They were here long before the Walsh family arrived. You'd know that if you'd studied history, but I know MAGA has an issue with studying. To which Matt responded with a 13-minute video in which he got really mad, but was unable to rebut the two central points that I made. Number one, enslaved people helped build this country, and number two, perhaps up to 1 in 3 of those slaves were Muslims. Matt can't rebut that because it's true, according to historians, according to the African American History Museum, according to the US State Department. Muslim slaves are a historical fact. As his boss Ben Shapiro has famously declaimed, facts don't care about your feelings, Matt. It's not my fault if they didn't teach you about slavery in high school. In his video, Matt Walsh sounds like a Monty Python sketch. What did the slaves ever do for us? Ignoring the railways, the roads, the ports, the literal seat of our government, the White House and the Capitol, all built by enslaved people. And 1 in 3 of them, remember, being Muslims, black African Muslims. Matt is also just completely clueless about the Muslims who fought in the Revolutionary War, in the War of 1812, in the Civil War, where most of them fought in the Union Army. But then again, Matt's been pictured wearing a Confederate t-shirt, so maybe he's mad that the Muslims fought against the Confederacy. He even issues this challenge to me.
If Islam had ceased to exist 300 years ago, this country would not have lost a single thing. There is not a single good thing about our country that we would not have if not for Islam. And if you doubt that, then go ahead and give me an example of the great gift that Islam has given to this country since its founding.
Has he never heard of the Golden Age of Islam, which helped fuel the Renaissance and the Enlightenment in Europe, which of course then helped produce the American founding fathers? Has he ever gotten off of the internet and read a book? Well, look, I'm happy to fill the gaps in his education. He asked me to explain what Islam or Muslims have done for America. I mean, the black Muslim slaves aside, more recently, how about the planning of the moon landings? That was a Muslim American scientist and immigrant. How about the science behind modern skyscrapers? That was a Muslim American engineer and immigrant. How about brain tumor treatment? That was a Muslim American neurosurgeon and immigrant.
Damn, fucking Walsh is getting so cooked right now. He's getting so cooked right now. Matt, you're punching above your weight, bro. You're punching above your weight. It's just like, give it a rest. This is what happens when you're redlining your anger 24/7 and your vitriol 24/7, and you're just pointing in every single direction that you think. Anybody who's like somewhat left of center to very left of center, you're just throwing fucking bombs. I hate you and I hate you and I hate you. Eventually, your ass is gonna get fucking checked by somebody who's way more intelligent than you are, and that's what you're getting right now is a fucking beatdown by somebody who's way more well-read than you are.
Just this year, the Nobel Prize for Chemistry went to, among others, a Palestinian-American Muslim immigrant whose research Matt could never possibly understand and whose work could help tackle man-made climate change, which Matt doesn't believe in. Because Matt Walsh's knowledge of science is right up there with his knowledge of history. So what does he do? The guy who can't rebut basic facts. He attacks me. He goes after me for a speech I gave nearly 2 decades ago, which I said awful, dumb, bigoted things about the gay community, about non-Muslims, which I've regretted, disowned, apologized for multiple times over the decades. He thinks it's a gotcha. But here's the problem for Matt. What I said back then are essentially Matt Walsh's views right now. Matt is an anti-gay bigot today. In fact, Matt supports a Uganda law imprisoning gay people. I don't.
Jesus.
Matt thinks most pop music is satanic. I don't. What I stupidly said nearly 20 years ago in my 20s, Matt basically says today, aged almost 40. Oh, and if you're going to play the game of what were you saying in embarrassing videos decades ago, here's what Matt Walsh was saying in 2010.
But to all of a sudden act like this phenomenon of girls getting pregnant at a young age that we consider young, 16 or 17, to act like it's a new thing is ridiculous. It's always been that way. Girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Groomer. Fucking groomer, fredophile. Jesus fucking Christ, bro.
Pretty gross. Pretty disgusting. I think we can all agree. And also kind of creepy. A 25-year-old man telling his audience how fertile 17-year-old girls are. What is wrong with you, man? I mean, it's also ironic that the right are obsessed with smearing Muslims as child molesters and saying Islam supports child marriage, and yet here is Matt on tape saying that about 17-year-old girls, about children. So, look, to conclude, who is more American? The guy who supports free and fair elections, me, or the guy who got mad when judges locked up violent insurrectionists who tried to overturn the 2020 election, Matt Walsh? Who is more American? The guy who supports the First Amendment and free speech, me, or the guy who wants to imprison people and deport people for their speech, Matt Walsh? Who is more American? The guy who supports the United States, me, or the guy who wore a t-shirt celebrating the violent traitors of the Confederacy, Matt Walsh? Who is more American? The guy who supports religious pluralism and separation of church and state as intended by the founders, me, or the guy who wants Christian nationalism in America and proudly calls himself a theocratic fascist, Matt Walsh? Yeah, I think I've made the case that I'm much more of an American and much more of a patriotic American than you are, Matt, and you're just going to have to go whine and cry about it.
Oh, that was brutal. Oh, that was hard to watch, dog. Oh, he's a bloody pulp right now. God damn. God damn. Look, I mean, this is what I'm saying. The right needs to be fucking careful, bro. They don't understand. Like, that video we covered yesterday, do you guys remember it? It was like these, like, 70-year-old wine moms, or I guess wine grandmas at this point, and they were, like, there was some right-winger asking them like gotcha questions, and this right-wing wine grandma was basically like, left-wing wine grandma was basically like, yeah, I'm okay with, I'm happy Charlie Kirk's not here anymore, is basically what they said. And then the host goes to another woman who's right nearby and says, your friend just said they're happy Charlie's no longer with us. And then the other wine mom just laughs. And like, this is what you guys created. Like, you don't get it. All the fucking nearly 20 straight years of the right telling the left, fuck you, fuck off, we hate you, you're pieces of shit, we don't want to negotiate, we don't want to compromise, we don't view you as American, we don't view you as equal, you're fucking less than, there's no place for you. Like, years and years and years of that kind of fucking abuse. And at some point, the spell broke with the left, where the Michelle Obama idea of when they go low, we go high. At some point, Democrats decided, liberals and leftists decided, no, how about when you guys go low, now we're going to go lower. And this is a great example of Mehdi Hasan going, look, you're not up to this, bro. You're not up to this fight. And unfortunately, look, I have to say, I really fear in the near future, there's going to be a movement in this country that is going to bring back the obsession with IQ, but instead of doing, eugenics along racial lines, they're going to start doing eugenics and IQ shit along ideological lines. In fact, you're already sort of seeing that. There's that guy, Richard Hanania. He used to be this like white nationalist guy. He was a big writer, big white nationalist guy. And then recently, or relatively recently, I should say, he's done a total about-face. And now basically all of his writing is against MAGA. And this is a guy who was obsessed with eugenics and IQ shit. And back in the day, it was all focused along racial lines. Well, now, what he's seemingly come to realize is, wait a second, I was wrong to focus on this along racial lines. Obviously, I was right with my IQ obsession, but it's along ideological lines, and the entire right wing in this country are fucking knuckle-dragging idiots. They're Neanderthals. They're morons. They're fucking total dipshits that don't know anything. They don't know their ass from their elbow. They're proud anti-intellectuals. And so now you get the sense that his worldview is like, yeah, we should have eugenics and we should be IQ obsessed, but basically everybody who's right of center should like lose their fucking voting rights and should know their place and shut the fuck up forever because they're ruining everything. This is what the right is bringing about. By being so arrogant and so over the top and so absurd and so angry and so spiteful and so hateful and so fucking fascist for so long, that now you've like awakened this sleeping giant of angry liberals, angry leftists, angry former right-wingers who are going, I don't associate with you motherfuckers because you're all the dumbest people I've ever seen in my fucking life. This is what you started. This is what you started. And it's not going to end well for you, bro. It's not going to end well for you. This country, man, God forbid, if the Democrats find a candidate that can actually speak to the real frustrations of the American people, the right is cooked for a fucking generation, dog. They ruined everything. Fucking looking around, prices going up massively, inflation skyrocketing, unemployment skyrocketing, this stupid trade war ruining the economy in general, the fucking corruption, the AI bubble, which is gigantic, the billionaires getting everything they want, the self-dealing of Trump building his fucking ballroom at the same time he's withholding food stamps from starving kids, right? The fucking concentration camps, the endless bombing campaigns against countries that didn't attack us. I mean, this is absurd. The Epstein files, hiding the Epstein files, all this shit. People are so sick of all of it. And I just feel like Mehdi laying the smackdown here on Matt Walsh is very indicative of the national mood. And it's very indicative of people realizing that why are the dumbest people the loudest and the most obnoxious and the most arrogant and the ones who are most convinced they're right? And it's time they get fucking they get a reality check, because man, do they have no clue what the fuck they're talking about. And we're long past due for them to realize that they are in way over their heads, as fucking Matt Walsh was here. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.